guys, it's Kylie. Welcome to the podcast. Today is a quickie little solo episode just to give you an update on the wild ride that is going on in these parts, but also just sharing my reflections on how clear I am at the moment that fear and freedom are two sides of the same coin, right? And the more that I have been able to build capacity to hear the fear and lean into the fear and understand that fear is not my authentic self, the more I am able to ride the waves of this very rapid change that we're in the middle of. So if you don't already know, my husband and I are heading off on a grand adventure. It has all happened rather quickly, although I was reflecting that the last time we moved countries, we did that fairly quickly too. So maybe this is just our style. I don't know. So yes, in 2012, I got myself an internship in New York City and we jetted off, sold everything, put everything in a container that we were going to keep, sold our house that time and headed off with our kids for a grand adventure. And I've had itchy feet for a while now. We've been in our house for about 8 years. And just through a series of events, we just decided that now's the time to go on another grand adventure. So we've rented our house for 12 months and we're heading to Southeast Asia to start with. We don't know where we'll end up. We are very cognizant of the fact that there is stuff going on in the Northern Hemisphere that maybe we don't want to cross paths with, shall we say. So yeah, at this stage, it's not very likely that we'll go to the Northern Hemisphere, but who knows? Who knows what the future holds? So yeah, we've spent about, I think, 6 weeks. Well, I know last weekend was the first weekend that we did not have an enormous to-do list that had to do with like cleaning out a shed or cleaning walls or all the things you need to do when you move out of a house, like cleaning air conditioner filters and windows and window tracks and all that, very practical stuff. So we are now, as you can see by my change of location, if you're watching on video, paused at our daughter's house for a little while, and then we fly out officially on the 28th of April, which feels like a long time away, but really isn't. So I did want to share just recently, I had this moment, it's probably about 2.5, maybe 3 weeks ago now. And both my husband and I have had periods in this whole process where we have either, woken up in the middle of the night, not been able to get back to sleep or not been able to get to sleep in the first place because it just feels like there's so much going on. If you're watching the video, that is my current to-do list. We've gone to an A3 art pad, and that's like the third version too. So there's been more than that. And anyway, lots of things occupying brain space. And I think partially because of that, like neither of us have been sleeping very well. And obviously when you don't have any downtime on the weekends as well, or very little, because I'm in the middle of also completely building out a brand new offering, which I'm very excited about. So yeah, nothing like putting pressure on myself in multiple levels. Anyway, I found myself having this moment in the kitchen, and I am not someone who will generally tip into anxiety. If I'm out of balance, like really out of balance, I would say that I'm more prone to like flat mood or even have had periods of depression in my life. But I had this moment in my kitchen where I'm like, I can't focus. I feel really overwhelmed. That was like my emotional kind of weather. But my physical weather was my heart was pounding. And I had this like, it wasn't a feeling like I was going to die, but it was a feeling of like danger, danger, danger in my nervous system. And I actually had a thought. It was like, is this what a panic attack feels like? Like I'm not familiar with this, but I was really struggling to keep present enough to put into place any of the tools that I know to use. Any of the breath work, tapping, like just anything that would pattern interrupt an old pattern, right? I don't know if you could hear this, but my Kelpie is sitting underneath my desk at the moment, moaning because he is having a bad dream. So my apologies if that came out. And yeah, I had this moment. I was standing in front of my kitchen cupboards and my heart's pounding and I'm getting more and more and more overwhelmed. And I'm just like, I think I'm having a panic attack. I had enough presence of mind to be able to just, like put my hand in my chest, my hand in my belly. And I had a reminder of one other time in my life where I had this feeling. And it was when my dad was in palliative care. And if you live anywhere near where I do, you may remember in 2011 there was quite catastrophic flooding in Brisbane. We lived in Sunshine Coast and in a place called Grantham. A lot of people lost their lives. It was an awful, awful season. And it happened to be at the same time my dad was in palliative care. And we lived on top of a hill and we would be flooded out according to the river tide. So not because our house was near the river, but because we had to cross over somewhere where the river would come up to the road. And I'd just gotten through the river. I was driving a little tiny Pulsar, actually my dad's car, so low to the ground. And I don't like driving in floodwater at all. Anyway, I got through the floodwater and I remember being on the highway probably about 15 minutes from where he was. And I'd gotten a call to say, you need to come. Things are changing rapidly. And so I'm already feeling stressed about that, obviously. And then I had this moment where my car hit a wet patch and I started to go sideways. And over there was not the edge of a hill, but a ditch that would have no doubt done some damage. And I had a moment where I had this very clear voice come into my mind and I just started saying over and over again, I am safe, I am well, be calm. I am safe, I am well, be calm. And I don't really know, was that my voice? Was it some sort of protector? Maybe it was my dad, who knows? Anyway, it got me through that moment. And in a really similar kind of vibe, when I was standing in my kitchen and I was like really, really getting activated in my body, there's enough presence of mind to, just put my hand on my heart and my hand on my belly. And I'm just like, okay, you're safe. Because what had been happening in my head was, what if we're not doing the right thing? What if we get renters that are going to be horrible to our house and our, main asset is burnt to the ground? What if there's an alien invasion? I didn't actually think that in my conscious mind, but that is something I dreamt of the same week. Are we doing the right thing leaving our kids? What if our pets aren't okay? What if we get over there and one of us has an accident? Like just fear doing its thing, right? Because fear, by definition, bless it, fear has a purpose to keep us alive. Unfortunately, it tries to intervene when you want to go on a grand adventure because I was really up against the edges of the zone where my system felt comfortable with taking a risk, taking a chance. Now, I have got to say, caveat-wise, my husband and I have done some mad things in the time we've been together, almost 30 years. We've lived all over the place. We packed up and left for the States. We were just very not expected things that people don't necessarily do, or lots of people I do because I hang out with other entrepreneurs and neurosparkly people, but in general. And so it's not like we haven't made big leaps before, and it's not like we haven't built self-trust in each other and ourselves that, you take a big leap and it's either amazing or you learn something. But no matter what, you get to respond and there's no real bad end point. Like my logical mind knew that, but far out, my fear brain was running interference so bad and so strong. I had this moment, a lot of the stories and a lot of the fear had to do with, what if we get there and we hate it? What if we don't love traveling for that long together? What if, because we've rented a house for 12 months, right? Which in some ways sounds like a long time and sometimes sounds like a, short time, but I don't know. My fear brain was freaking out about that as well. Like 12 months is a long time and whatever. Anyway, when it came down to it, I had, again, a similar voice to the be calm, you are well, you are safe, be calm voice. And I had a moment where I heard so clearly, like crystal clear, I am my own solid ground. And I was like, A, what the fuck does that mean? But also, and then I'm like, I am my own solid ground. So the voice of fear is trying to tell me that safety comes from control, knowing what's going to happen, staying at home in the known zone, both physically but also like identity-wise, I guess, and not doing anything drastic, right? And then this more knowing voice, which now that I actually feel into it as I'm telling you this story and kind of processing myself, I feel like it was just my authentic self. It's like, you are your own solid ground. You don't need circumstances for surety, for safety, for anchoring. You don't need even other people to provide that for you. Even Shane and I, like, if we don't both love it, then we get to respond and either one of us comes home, or I don't know, like, who knows? And in that moment, I had this like massive wave of peace come over me, because I'm like, if I'm my own solid ground, then about 95% of the things that my fear brain is trying to tell me are really, really dangerous don't even matter, because I get to decide how I respond. And if I am my own calm, grounded anchor, safe place in a storm, I don't need my external circumstances to be doing anything. I don't need them to be any particular shape. How wild is that? And then a funny thing happened. So this was, it must be about 3 weeks ago. As I said before, there's been lots of practical stuff, and a couple of the things that practically we thought might take a little bit of time, and we know when we're flying out, so we're leaving at the end of April. We thought that selling our cars that we needed to sell might take some time, and we thought renting our house might take some time. And so we'd kind of been reverse engineering like the to-do list according to when we're flying out. So we decide just after this moment in the kitchen where I'm like, I am my own solid ground. And as soon as I said I'm my own solid ground, I also had this realization wash over me that the to-do list was realistically very big, but I was trying to do 50 things at once. And I'm like, you just need one and then take a breath. And so I began to really practice breath work every time I could feel my emotional weather getting a bit stressed or my physical weather getting a bit stressed, but also either side of my day, just having 5 to 10 minutes of just general defragging time. And that comes in 2 forms for me. Number one, voice processing with my bestie, who I talk to all the time. I'm actually very blessed to have a few people that I count as very close friends where I can take anything and talk about anything. And often there's not even any need to respond, right? Because it's just the verbalization. And that is, it's part of my design to need to do that. And the second thing is tapping. I always come back to emotional freedom technique because it's simple, it's easy. I can access it at any time. I don't need my phone with a meditation track. I don't need someone else to do NLP on me. I don't need a hypnotherapy person, whatever. Anyway, so I started really inserting those self-care snacks. And then we listed the car. Now, we thought it would take maybe a month. It's a long time since we've sold a car privately. But so anyway, I got the ever helpful AI. I was like, here's the car, here's the details, write me an ad. It was an older car, so I wanted to be really explicit in the ad about everything. It needs new, I can't remember, rotors or something and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we priced it reasonably. We could have sold that car 10 times. And that was the beginning of a period that will forever be in my mind as the green light, go, go, go period from the universe, where it's just going, go. And it's not lost on me that this flow state opened up when I was able to hold myself in the heightened fear response of like, you can't do this. You can't go if you're not sure. You can't center joy. You can't center adventure. How irresponsible is that? It's so funny. And so anyway, this guy comes to pick up the car. We could have sold it 10 times. He bought it, sight unseen, 45 minutes after the ad hit. Comes to pick up that car, and he ends up buying the second car that we were going to sell, but we weren't going to sell until closer to when we were going. So then he buys that car as well. So then we've got no cars. So anyway, that was another thing we had to deal with. Then I rang the real estate agent. I had already talked to her and I was like, okay, We're ready. This is our date that we are leaving. This is when we'd like to be out of the house because we want to have a little bit of time to like visit relatives and spend some good quality time with our girls and everything. And she's like, great. And she rang me back about 10 minutes later. Now, in where I live, the real estate market is insane, both for selling and renting. And we knew what amount that we were going to charge and all of those things. We'd already spoken to the property manager. Anyway, she rings me back and she's like, Kylie, do you want to put this out? Because we'll have to let people in for an inspection. Usually that means you'll have 30 to 50 applications you've got to sort through. And I'm just like, oh my God, my brain is hurting just thinking about that because I know myself and I will read, even if they're shortlisted, a handful of shortlisted applications or all of them, and I will want to give the house to every single person because the rental market is insane. People are putting up on social media every second day, like, I can't find a house, I need one because my kids are blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, she rings me and she's like, we've got a pre-approved tenant for the amount that your house will be. Are you interested in just going with them? And I'm like, yes, easy. So we rented our house inside of an hour. Then little things like we had to get a water safety certificate because that's what you're required to do in Queensland, which is a state we live in. And so I rang the plumber. My friend happened to be the person who answered the phone. I didn't even know she worked for the plumber and knocked me down with a feather. He is literally 2 houses away. And so the water certificate was sorted in like 15 minutes. Like so many things like that. It was just like green light. Now, I can't share the latest big green light yet because it's not a done deal, but I am super excited. Something that I have been affirming and embracing identity-wise is I am a magnet to magnificent opportunities. And I've been saying that for years, but because of all the identity alchemy stuff that I've been doing, especially in the last 18 months since Scene was released, and I really anchored into the knowing in my own lived experience that actually these big quantum shifts that people talk about actually start from the inside out, and it's to do with identity and allowing the shift, not so much the like, I did this and it immediately happened. That's my opinion anyway. And so, yeah, it's been really, really cool. This latest opportunity has to do with us being somewhere that's on our bucket list. Yeah, I don't want to say any more than that because it isn't a done deal at the time I'm recording this. We're waiting to hear back. So I'll share that when I can. But I guess my key little takeaway is I have never been so clear that your capacity to let in the lightness and the ease and I would say abundance and connection and love, like all of the things we desire. And for me, this entire trip is about living in alignment to my value system, and my highest value is freedom. This entire year is like saying, here's the world. Do with it what you will. It's your oyster, which is super exciting. Oh my God. But yeah, I feel like there's something shifting. I call these chiropractic adjustments of the soul, but just the capacity to hold yourself as solid ground through fear or overwhelm or doubt or lack of self-confidence or a really tricky time in your business, like maybe a launch has failed or whatever. That capacity to hold yourself in what we would call the heavier or trickier or more activating emotions, it's like it's inversely proportional to the amount that it unlocks on the flip side. And if you think fear, the fear that was trying to hold me stuck in my kitchen is inversely proportional to the freedom and the ease and the green lights that we've been enjoying since. It's kind of juicy to understand that. And I mean, I have understood that for a long, long time, but it is something that I feel like I've logically understood, and now I'm in the middle of this slipstream of understanding. And I'm not silly. I'm sure that there is going to be times when I flip back into the other state where I'm like, what are we doing? Definitely had an emotional response to a lot of like, especially leaving our girls. And, you know, our girls are beautiful adult humans, 20 and 21, 21 and 22 this year, which is insane because obviously I'm only 30. So how could I have a 22-year-old? But yeah, I'm sure there's going to be all the feels, right? I'm sure. But yeah, I wonder what would be possible for you if you really, truly felt in your body and heard your wild woman or wild man truth inside of you, just saying quietly but calmly, I am my own solid ground. What would be possible there? So exciting. All right, I'll see you next week. Big love to you.